we've been here before where both sides have decided to diffuse tensions and talk, but it hasn't held. What would actually really bring a bit of stability here?
Oh, well, it's a situation where one country has occupied territory of another. It's a situation where a generally stable border situation between the two countries that has held for years and which has been governed by a set of written agreements, 4 written agreements actually between India and China for maintaining peace on the border, has effectively and suddenly and unexpectedly been thrown out by China when it moved troops into Indian territory, or Indian claimed territory, I should say, in the month of May. Now, India has a simple demand, and that is that you have to withdraw your troops, and we get back to the status quo ante of April. And the Chinese have flatly refused. They have exercised a claim over the territory. They've said that this territory, which incidentally it had never claimed before, or I should say it has never occupied before, has suddenly come under Chinese occupation. So the Indian demand is clear and simple. Please vacate our territory, and the Chinese have so far refused to do so.
Well, the danger is, with thousands of troops up there now, when there were merely hundreds a year ago, that something could escalate by accident.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's made even more dangerous by the nationalistic politics that both sides have in their domestic political arenas. Xi Jinping wants to appear to be a strong leader. So too does Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He has so far sort of exerted a sort of muscular posture and a muscular riposte. If China does not vacate and India does nothing about it, it will be a damaging blow to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's image within the country. Inflamed, you're having a large number of military troops in contact with one another, and you're having a domestic politics exerting a malign influence on the whole situation. So as you said, it is indeed a dangerous situation.
Well, absolutely. We've got the line of actual control there between the two sides. Don't forget, not far away is the line of control between India and Pakistan. Is there a danger this could end up being a two-front war for Delhi?
Well, that is Delhi's biggest strategic dilemma, how to avoid a two-front war. So far, Pakistan has played it very, I should say, responsibly, insofar as Pakistan can play anything responsibly. They have avoided making inflammatory threats. They have avoided giving the impression that they would intercede on behalf of China or come down or liven up the border in case China does resort to hostilities. So far there is no threat or no indication of a two-front war, but things could change very quickly. If China exerts pressure on Pakistan to either liven up the border or to step up the insurgency within Kashmir, India could find itself in a situation where it's facing multiple threats at the same time. Now, the Indian army is a big army. It has a large number of people. It has a large amount of experience maintaining law and order in Jammu and Kashmir. But still, this would be the first time that it is facing off against China and having to deal with these internal problems and the Pakistan problem at the same time.
Colonel Shukla, should India perhaps accept U.S. assistance to deal with China?
Well, that assistance has been forthcoming. At least 4 occasions or 4 conversations between Indian and American leaders have taken place where the United States has offered assistance. But India wants to give the impression, and I already spoke about Prime Minister Modi's muscular nationalistic politics. India wants to give the impression that it is capable of handling this situation on its own. It does not need assistance from a so-called big brother sitting in Washington. And it has declined all forms of assistance except for intelligence assistance or information about what China is thinking and planning. So far, the United States has not been in a position where it has actively come down on India's side. But if a war starts going wrong for India, if China starts making gains, if China starts occupying large amounts of Indian territory, or if this two-front war that we just spoke about comes about, then the situation could change. India could very well start accepting greater amounts of American assistance, and then you'd have this very polarized situation in the South Asian region.
Since coming to power, Prime Minister Modi has invested a great deal of personal as well as political capital in his relationship with Xi Jinping. Has that been undone completely now?
Oh, that is completely under the bus now. Prime Minister Modi, as you said, has had several meetings with Xi Jinping. He has sort of reached the conclusion himself, based on many statements made over the years, that he has forged a new relationship between India and China and so on. But this sudden action by China, and it has to be said, that it came on the heels of India already being tied up in handling the COVID situation. And one of the reasons, in fact, why Indian troops were not on the border to stop the Chinese was that they were taking COVID precautions. But China's actions are seen all across India as a stab in the back, as something that is deeply damaging to Sino-Indian relations. And I think coming back from here is going to be a long, hard grind.
What's central to this, the tensions between the two sides, is Aksai Chan? I mean, India has insisted that, Aksai Chan belongs to India. And of course, China says that impinges on its sovereignty. How do you read that situation?
Well, it's a clear sort of border dispute. It's a territorial dispute between the two sides. But what is important is that so far, starting from, if you don't count the 1962 war, and that was a long time ago, the two sides have actually managed this dispute rather well. While the border with Pakistan, as you know, has been live and inflamed, and, a lot of firing and killing and action taking place on that border, that has not been the case with the Sino-Indian border. It's been handled very well, very responsibly by both sides. They've signed 4 border agreements to make sure that the situation does not spiral out of control. But China has suddenly gone back on all of that. And, it's not clear in the Indian strategic thinking why China has made such a sort of volte-face, if I may call it that. So that is what is the real problem, a stable border that has suddenly become unstable, and nobody really knows why China has done that.
Shukla, it's not the only border that's contentious between the two sides. Of course, we've got one near Bhutan as well, haven't we? The thing is that there's a complaint coming from the defense ministry in China, which is that they're blaming India for all this, saying that when India comes to the negotiating table, they take the attitude of what's mine is mine and what's yours is up for negotiation. Is there any truth in that?
Well, as you know, when there's a border agreement, both sides accuse each other of sort of unreasonable behavior. But the simple fact is that China has gone back on a stable arrangement that existed. Indian troops used to patrol up to their claim line. Chinese troops used to patrol up to their claim line. And that never led to any serious confrontations. There was a little bit of jostling here and there that took place, but within the ambit of the border agreements, these situations were always handled. Now it's not being handled. So China saying that India has changed the status quo, it doesn't sort of go down very well with anybody who's looking, because the change in the status quo has been caused by China, by the move of Chinese troops into territory that it had not occupied before, and by the stopping of Indian patrols from going up to their claim line. So as I mentioned before, accusations and counter-accusations are to be expected in a situation like that. But the on-ground status quo has been changed by China, and India is not accepting that.